So the Lakers look good, and they really seem to be kind of gelling now, right? And you're really starting to see the big three kind of come together. But this Lakers team could still use another piece or two to add to the rotation and kind of just, solidify this team. Maybe it's a quality trade that makes them a legit contender. Maybe it's a quality trade that just, maybe moves the needle, hopefully somewhat marginally. And then they can kind of reevaluate, take them to the trade deadline. And then if they need to make the big move, the big push, well, they need to still have Russell Westbrook to make that happen. So very likely, and based on the reports, the Lakers are looking to package Kendrick Nunn, Patrick Beverley, and maybe like a Damian Jones and go get some pieces, or even just Patrick Beverley and Kendrick Nunn, get some trade done. Now, they do have options, right? They could go get one or two players from several teams, right? We talked about the Spurs recently. Detroit Pistons is another one, which I think that might even be arguably the best trade that the Lakers could get for these two, like a Bojan Bogdanovic and Sadiq Bey for maybe a first or something along those lines. I think that'd be really good. You get two wing players, you get a 20-point per game scorer, a guy that could fit and gel beautifully next to LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and even Russell Westbrook. And then you can kind of reevaluate. You'd have, from middle of December to the middle of February to kind of see, are you there? Especially with the Western Conference being so wide open and just so many possibilities for teams that could come out of the West. I think the Lakers, now is a good time to go all in, especially after that Bucks game and the way that the Lakers played in that game. They showed, look, if we're bought in, we're committed, and our guys are playing, good luck. Good luck trying to beat us. Like, if the team that we saw against the Milwaukee Bucks is the team that we see in the playoffs, I wouldn't be shocked at all if the Lakers came out of the Western Conference, but I do think you need a couple more pieces to kind of help alleviate the Lakers, right? You need some other options that can fit in the rotation outside of just the big three. Currently, we do have some rotational guys, but a lot of guys I feel like are playing out of position and playing out of, the need for that player, right? For example, like Lonnie Walker is not supposed to be our third best player, right? Or our fourth best player. He's more of like that guy, like, he's our fifth or sixth best player. So when he goes and gets 15, 16, 20 a night, it's like, man, like the impact is just that much greater, right? Troy Brown, he's not supposed to be our starting three to where, if he gets 8 points, it's like, okay, like that was cool. But if he's getting us 8 points off the bench, well, now that's just that much more impactful. So if you could do a trade for a piece or two that could get you some starting level guys, now everyone kind of can flow back into their natural order, and it really just kind of helps. And now, like, Walker's impact is that much bigger, things like that. Outside of the big three, you have, Austin Reeves, Walker, Troy Brown, Wenyen Gabriel, Dennis Schroeder, right? I mean, the list just goes on and on of players in the rotation. You got about 6 guys outside of the big three, so that's a good 9-man rotation, but it would be nice to have a couple more that could really just kind of round out that roster, make you truly deep, and also just guys that you can rely on more come playoff time, right? I really like Troy Brown, but do you really want him getting ample minutes come playoffs? Walker, I think, could probably do it, but still it'd be nice to have another guy to where Walker's now our fifth or sixth best guy. Dennis Schroeder's a guy that has been there, but, you got a lot of young guys, even Wenyen Gabriel. Like, can you really count on him to give you big minutes in the playoffs? It'd be nice just to have those guys to get the rotation. So what guys can you get other than, a Spurs deal or something like that, a Pistons deal, as I mentioned, that could actually improve the team, make us better, and give us a need? That's the big thing. We really need some sizable wings, some sizable players that could, knock down threes, play some defense, but also help add the scoring load, but play next to LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Well, you could take Patrick Beverley and Kendrick Nunn, and the perfect, like, money variant-wise, that you could get, even more so than the Spurs deal and the Pistons, is the Charlotte Hornets deal of PJ Washington and Kelly Oubre. So if you could get Kelly Oubre and PJ Washington for the Patrick Beverley and Kendrick Nunn, that's about as even as a swap as it gets. I believe that this Kelly Oubre and PJ Washington is like 200,000 less or something. Like, it's literally like that close. So it'd be a nice even swap. You give up some assets to Charlotte. For Charlotte, they're going to have a decision to make, right? What do they do with Mikal Bridges, right? Now, here's the thing. If there was any way to get Mikal Bridges over PJ Washington, I would do that. Because you wouldn't be able to get PJ Washington and Bridges. So I would prefer to get either Bridges or Washington. Ideally, Bridges. Bridges would be my first choice, but I really think that they're going to keep Bridges, and that's where the decision lies, right? Because they have to pay these guys, and all these guys are due, right? They got to pay Miles Bridges. They have to pay PJ Washington, and they already have Terry Rozier on a max, or not a max, but pretty close to a max. You already have, Gordon Hayward and all his issues, right? All of that stuff. So you got to figure out what are your options or what are you going to do. PJ Washington may be the odd man out. It's a player that they've tried to trade in the past, that has been available in the past, that they've took offers on and listened to, and teams just haven't really bought, right? Because the thing is like, how many teams, one, have the assets and have the need for PJ Washington? If you're a rebuilding young team, maybe you have a look at him. Maybe a team like Atlanta would swap PJ Washington with John Collins. But does that make sense for if you're the Charlotte Hornets? Like, do you really want John Collins? And now you got to pay him and stuff like that, right? So salaries are a thing. The players are a thing. There's a lot that goes into it. And what type of assets are you getting? A team like Atlanta, their draft picks are going to be middle of the pack, if that, where the Lakers, you could get a potential lottery pick, which is why so many teams seem to want that 27, 29 pick, because they're looking at it as like, man, if we could get that, Lakers are probably really bad post LeBron. Lakers organization isn't what it once was. Maybe we could get a lottery pick, and now you turned, PJ Washington into a lottery pick, you clear some cap space, do all that stuff. It could be beneficial for a Charlotte team, especially a team that is currently in the tank race for Victor Wembanyama, right? So if you get Victor Wembanyama, perfect, all was right in the world, and you're trading two guys that are key contributors that are helping right now. You still have Bridges. I mean, if you have LaMelo Ball, Bridges, and Victor Wembanyama, or even if you get like a Scoot Henderson or something like that, you got a really good core for the next several years, right? For the next 7 to 10 years, you're pretty much locked in and in a good spot. So PJ Washington, you want those assets, because the idea is like, okay, you get Victor Wembanyama, right? Now you got Bridges, Victor, and you got LaMelo Ball. And by the time the Lakers pick is ready to be taken and used, you're hopefully good enough to where you either don't need that pick, and now you can use that pick to go get a player that takes you over the top, or maybe you're like, hey, there's this one player in the draft that would be a perfect fit to put around these young guys, and now we can go start competing for championships. So either way, it could be a beneficial asset for Charlotte later on down the road. But regardless, they got to make a decision on PJ Washington and Miles Bridges. And I think Miles Bridges is the one that they're going to keep. So if there's any way we could get Miles Bridges, you go get Bridges. You do. That's what you do, right? So let's assume, no, it's PJ Washington, Kelly Oubre. This is perfect, right? You get two sizable wing players that can shoot, that can, play some solid defense, that can do a little bit of everything. Neither of them are, lights out shooters. Don't get me wrong. Kelly Oubre is definitely a streaky shooter. There's games where he's like 6 of 7 from 3, and then there's games where he's like, 2 of 7 from 3. But all in all, he's a solid player. He can play some defense. He can also go create his own shot, which is good too. He can get to the basket, create off the dribble. He's even not a bad passer at all. He's not a great passer, but he's a solid enough passer to get other guys involved and swing the ball. PJ Washington is a guy that can get you 20. He can shoot from pretty much anywhere on the floor. He's a really solid shooter as well. And just again, two guys that would fit in beautifully with this Lakers squad, that would be plug and play. It wouldn't take a lot. They'd understand the role. They'd know the role. PJ Washington is a young player that you'd have for the next several years. He's going to need a new contract, so now you can, pay him what you want to pay him. And you got a young, power forward that you could utilize for the next several years next to Anthony Davis. So you could literally have a starting five of like Walker, Kelly Oubre, LeBron James, PJ Washington, and Anthony Davis. Like, that's a pretty good starting five. That's a good spot to be in if you're the Lakers. And then Charlotte, they're just, collecting assets, right? They're just trying to build for their future, get as many young assets as possible. I do think a trade like this could be hugely beneficial for the Lakers. This I would put up there as maybe one of the better trades also. I really like Bojan Bogdanovic and Saddiq Bey, but I think PJ Washington is a more well-rounded player right now, although different positions you can make an argument. But I think this is also more helpful for the future as well, because Kelly Oubre and PJ Washington, they're both young. Boyan, his thing is his age, although Boyan does line up perfectly with sort of LeBron's timeline, so that could be helpful. But I think I would personally probably rather have PJ Washington long term than Saddiq Bey. That's just me personally. I do think Boyan is probably the best fit out of all of them, but I don't think that this is a bad option at all. Like, if the Lakers did this tomorrow, I wouldn't be upset, right? Like, this and the Pistons deal might be my two favorite deals. As far as like what you can get for Patrick Beverley and Kendrick Nunn, that is being rumored and being reported. Again, it just comes down to like what is actually realistically obtainable. I'm sure there are other options out there that you could probably find and go, oh, like, well, but I'd really like this. Yes, but can we really get those players? That's the thing. If we can get Miles Bridges, that's my favorite trade. If you can get Miles Bridges and Kelly Oubre, go do that, right? Like, I would rather have that. That is my favorite trade, even beyond the Bojan Bogdanovic and Saddiq Bey. Hands down, that's the best trade you could get, because you get a legit, 6'8", sizable, bulky wing. I mean, he's perfect. He's exactly what we need. He's still young enough. You have him for the future. I think that would be, in my opinion, the best deal. But if you can't get him, then I think it's kind of a coin flip. It's just kind of like, would you rather have a power forward and a shooting guard small forward, or would you rather have, two small forwards for the future? Like, what would you want? And Saddiq Bey, I think, is a little more raw. He's a little more of a question mark, where PJ Washington, you kind of know what you're going to get with him, right? He's a guy that gets 20 a night. He's a guy that, could fit in. He doesn't really need the ball, stuff like that. Like, he's a more seamless fit, in my opinion. And, maybe the upside, maybe you can make an argument the upside isn't as high, but they're also not that far off in age and stuff like that. So, I don't know. I would rather have PJ Washington for the future and for the long haul. Kelly Oubre and Bojan Bogdanovic, there's no comparison. Bojan Bogdanovic is the better player. I'd rather have Bojan Bogdanovic, but it's not like Kelly Oubre is like some slouch, Kelly Oubre is a better defender. He also can create and get to the basket more. He's still got some good athleticism, all that stuff. So I really like and lean towards this trade. But anyway, again, as always, this is a discussion, so I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What do you think of this trade? Would you do it? Would you not? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Would you rather have Bridges as well, or would you be fine with Washington? However you feel, whatever your thoughts and opinions are, good, bad, ugly, somewhere in between, let me know down in the comment section below.